Final Fantasy XIV is a massive game with thousands of hours of content. What I'm going to do here is break down some of the major plot points for those of you who want to know more about Eorzea, but may not have time to experience it all firsthand. Today, we're diving into the Stormblood portion of the Red Mage Storyline. With the defeat of Lambard, Eorzea fight for vengeance was over, so he decided to put a bit more effort into teaching Arya and you, the Warrior of Light, the art of being a Red Mage. The fight for the liberation of Alamigo is well underway, but instead of fighting at the forefront as he did during the time of the Crimson Duelists, he will aid the resistance by training the next generation of Red Mages, starting with you and Arya. Of course, he still believes the hands-on approach is the best, so you head to Idyllshire, a place where the strong gather for new adventures. There is a dangerous group of goblins called the Illuminati, how original, right? That are wreaking havoc around Idyllshire. One of the ways they harass the populace is with their mechanical soldiers, so Eorzea wants to kill two birds with one stone. You will practice your red magic by breaking the Illuminati's toys. Eorzea believes the task will be easy for you, but since Arya's skills are a bit less refined than yours, he wants her to fight with you watching her back. She wants to try alone though. She wants to catch up to the two of you, but she never will if you're always there to save her. Eorzea agrees and lets her try, so you both head into the countryside to face down some robots. You deal with your foes pretty easily, and once you're done, you head back to Eorzea. Arya still hasn't returned, so the two of you go to see if she needs help. You find her surrounded by some large broken machines and goblins, and although she seems exhausted, she's unharmed. Eorzea is concerned by how drained she seems, but before he can ask if she's okay, very familiar red ether swirls into her and her hair turns red. She looks at the two of you and demands that you give her your life force so she can feed before drawing her weapon. There's no reasoning with her in her current state, so the two of you knock her out, causing her to turn back to normal before you carry her back to Idyllshire. Arya wakes with no memory of attacking you. The last thing she remembers is sitting down after a fight with the machines, then hearing a loud roar in her head. Eorzea blames himself. He had seen how using magic drained Arya, but he hadn't taken it seriously. It seems that when Arya runs out of her own ether, her body automatically begins to hunger for other people's ether, just like Lambard, although his body had been altered to make it happen. It is possible that the same was done to Arya, but that's something you can all figure out after she gets some rest. In the meantime, you and Eorzea will find a cure for Arya's condition, although neither of you know very much about it at the moment. Eorzea decides that you should head to Girabania to a ziggurat built by ancient red mages. He and Lambard had explored it years ago looking for ancient magic. The place is overrun by beasts now, but it may hold knowledge that can help cure Arya. She won't be allowed to come. Until you figure out what's wrong with her, Eorzea forbids her from doing any magic. She doesn't argue, although she feels bad that you're taking such a long trip just for her. Not like she wouldn't do the same for you. At the ziggurat, you and Eorzea hunt for anything with any information about the history of the Red Mages and their magic. The ziggurat was built as a buffer against the shifts in the ether after the ancient calamity, as well as a library to store the stories of generations of Red Mages. A lot of it has been lost to thieves or worn away through time, but hopefully something is left intact that can help. What you find talks of a ritual where a mage makes a pact with a Voidsent and drinks a bit of its blood in exchange for extreme power. Some Voidsent have a serious taste for human ether. Lambard probably gained his ability to steal life force by uniting with one of those. The practice was started by some Maaki sorcerers before the Sixth Umbral Calamity, and since Red Mages use their own ether to fuel their spells, being able to draw power directly from their opponents would be enticing. Done right, it could give nearly godlike power. Done wrong, and it can turn you into something of an ether vampire, so the practice was forbidden. Fortunately, there's a potion that can stave off the hunger. Even more fortunately, the recipe is on the tablets that you found. With Arya's change seeming similar to Lambard's, the potion should work for her. The main ingredient comes from a creature called an Lilith, so you go to get it while Eorzea gathers the other ingredients. All that's left is to get the potion mixed, but Arya's been alone for long enough, so Eorzea heads to Ul'dah to get the potion made while you go to check on your friend. Eorzea returns shortly after you arrive in Idyllshire with the potion. Arya drinks it and immediately starts to feel better, even though it tasted like the inside of a boot. The potion is only a temporary measure. It restored her ether, but you still have to deal with the cause of her issue. If she overuses her magic, the hunger will return, so it would be best if she stops training for a while, at least until you figure out what caused the transformation. Whatever happened to her, it had to happen before Lambard captured her because she wasn't held for long enough for him to infuse her with Voidsent blood. So the three of you must do what you can to find more information on her condition. And one of the best places for ancient knowledge is anything left behind by the Sharlayans. While doing research, Ixrun remembers a book that Lambard paid a whole lot of attention to. He can't remember the name of the book, but it had the stories of a deranged serial killer who performed weird ritual murders with strange magic. Eventually he was executed in Ishgard as a heretic. That may have been the magic that Lambard had sought to learn and had used to augment his body. The book is rare, so it may be best to see if any well-renowned treasure hunters have heard any leads to where to find it. Midnight Dew. I'm hoping that's just a code name, otherwise her parents must have really hated her. And Idyllshire seems to know something about everything, so you and Arya pay her a visit while Ixrun checks with Rowena, a collector of all types of rare items. One of Midnight Dew's comrades told her of a rare book called Nightkin that he'd seen in the Google library while he was running for his life. It was written by an Ishgardian murderer who claimed to be a demon, and is said to be full of all kinds of crazy stuff. Sounds exactly like what you're looking for. Ixrun agrees that it sounds like the same book, but he hasn't been in the library for a long time, so he'd be horrible at finding anything in there. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how your experiences were, you know the library very well, so you get to lead the way as the two of you go to find the book. Arya wants to go, but since the guardians of the library attack anyone who enters, it won't be safe for her without her magic. That just leaves you and Ixrun to fight your way through the halls of the library. The journey past the guardians of the library is far more difficult than what seems necessary to guard even the most important of books, but the two of you fight your way through it all and find the book that you need. The book gives a lot of detailed explanations of forbidden sorcery, but there's so much more that Ixrun thinks Arya should hear about, so it's back to Idyllshire you go. Some of the things the book talks about even makes Ixrun uncomfortable, but there is a bit of good news. The mage who wrote the book had mastered all kinds of ancient spells, from red magic to Ma'aki summoning rituals. The reason he was so powerful was because he was a direct descendant of a Mahachi archmage who had drank the blood of the Voidsent Queen Lilith. He was the first to merge with the Voidsent for power, and even though the practice was outlawed later, the damage had already been done. The Voidsent Queen's blood will be passed into the mage's heirs, making a clan of ether-drinking spellcasters called Nightkin. Lambard was actually descended from the Nightkin clan. Arya probably is as well. The book's author's last name was Kalawaz, the same as Lambard. The same name was also heavily represented on Arya's family tree on her mother's side. Her being born with Voidsent blood would explain why her magic was so strong, and it doesn't take consuming more blood for people like Arya and Lambard to gain their power. The corruption in their blood just has to be awakened. The book even gives details on how. Arya's power was most likely awakened from her studies of red magic, but that brings up the question of why it happened so much faster in her than it had in Lambard. She could have been born with a stronger connection to her ancestor than Lambard, which would explain his dying words about her leading to your deaths. Fortunately, the book also tells of the way to break the curse. The first Kalawaz brought Lilith into the physical world by giving her a mortal host. After he made a deal with her, he trapped her in a warded coffin so she couldn't return to her world. That way the power she gave would never fade. So if the Voidsent Queen is banished from Eorzea, the corruption in Arya should fade. Beating a Voidsent that powerful won't be easy, but the vessel it's in doesn't give it access to its full strength, so the three of you should be able to handle it. The book's author found the prison, but it's unclear whether he moved it or not, so if you want to find it, you will have to follow the author's footsteps. That night, Arya has a strange dream. She dreams of the writer of Nightkin and the black coffin that he hid in his house. A group of knights broke in and arrested him and took the coffin. The dream was so vivid that Ixrun decides that asking around the tribunal in Ishgard where the knights served would be a good idea. The priest refuses to give Ixrun any information, but since you are known as the hero of Ishgard for your part in the Dragon Song War, the priest gladly offers you assistance. Although it will take a while to gather old records. Ixrun waits for the documents while you take Arya on a tour of the city. She still has holes in her memory, so she wants to fill them with new adventures and sights, and to do that she needs to be able to practice her magic again. Without it, she doesn't know what she'll do. Ixrun finds the two of you and he's excited to inform you that not only does he know where the coffin is, but it matched Arya's dream. Apparently the thing creeped the Inquisitors out so much that they threw it off a cliff at a place in Kurthus called the Witch Drop. The place is filled with Voidsent, probably due to the coffin being there, so it'll be a dangerous trip. And what else is new? The three of you head down into the ravine and you find the coffin just lying there. The void scent from inside calls out that only one with her blood can break the seal, and since you don't have her blood, she summons other void scent to deal with you. You defeat the creatures, and after you tell Ixrun about what you heard from the coffin, he wonders if you heard Lilith herself. Arya wants to try opening the coffin. If what Lilith said was true, then the only way to open it is her. Since it'll be kind of difficult to finish off the void scent without opening the coffin, there aren't many other options. Ixrun can feel the power coming from the coffin. It's going to be dangerous, so he warns Arya to be careful, but no amount of preparation could prepare you for the monster that comes out. Lilith is a very ugly snake demon, and she reveals that everything that has happened has all been a part of her plan to get Arya for her new vessel. She's been guiding her descendants through dreams, bringing them together and breeding stronger and stronger heirs until she sent Lambard to retrieve her vessel without him even knowing. Her words put Arya in a trance, and before you can stop her, Lilith takes her and teleports away. All isn't lost. Ixrun's knowledge on the subject of possession says that it takes a ritual for Lilith to take Arya's body, and that will take time. Now you just have to find out where they are. He decides that the Thaumaturge Guild is a good place to get help tracking Arya. Void scent possession rituals are complicated, so instead of taking the time to learn where they need to be cast, it's best to find someone who already knows about them. Since the Thaumaturges are successors to the arcane knowledge of the Ma'ak, they should have some information about Lilith. The receptionist, Yayake, at the guild goes on and on about how the books about Lilith are all forbidden, and never meant to see the light of day again because their knowledge is too dangerous to be spread into the world. Which means it'll take her a few minutes to get them for you since they've been chained to the bookshelves. Lilith is an incredibly powerful void scent, mainly because of her ability to control people. Anyone with any of her blood in them can be taken over, and with so many of her descendants running around, she has access to an army. The sigil that Lambard used to create his puppets was a manifestation of Lilith's power. He just drew her name and his blood on the victims, and they became slaves to her will. And that was only a piece of her power. She can also spit venom and drain people's life force, although her current vessel is not strong enough to take full advantage of her might. With a vessel like Arya, she will have the power to take revenge on the humans who locked her away. While that information would be useful in a fight, it doesn't help when it comes to finding Arya. Yayake has a solution to that as well. Lilith has to recreate the conditions of her original summoning from the alignment of the stars to the location, and the place where she was summoned is the ruined city of Ma'ak. Fortunately, you've already been to the Weeping City, a story that I'll cover another time, and to get there you need an airship. For that, you call in a favor from an old friend, Jesse of the Garland Ironworks. After the assassination attempt that you saved her from, it takes just a link shell call for her to get you a ship. Before you go, Ixrun offers to pay Yayake for her help, but a merchant already paid them with the instructions to help any mages in red who came there. Apparently Wilkin, the merchant whose kids you saved so long ago, has spent a lot of money in Uda to make sure that you and Ixrun never have to pay for anything in the city. With that out of the way, you head to Revenant's Toll to meet Jesse. The woman plans to fly you to the Weeping City personally to pay Arya back for her part in stopping Lambard. With no time to waste, you all take off to face Lilith and save Arya. Hopefully. The instant Lilith realizes that you're there, she may start the ritual whether the time is right or not, so you have to be fast or Arya is done for. Even an imperfect ritual would be enough to kill the girl and give Lilith access to at least some of her powers, something she will be more than willing to do if it means beating you. The city is filled with lesser void scent, but you and Ixrun cut your way through them until you find the queen. Sure enough, she begins transferring her essence into Arya the instant the two of you arrive. Lilith's power is even more devastating than you anticipated, and even though you manage to bring her down, she still manages to enter Arya. However, since the ritual wasn't performed at the proper time, Arya's desire to live allows her to expel Lilith from her mind and wake, freeing her from the curse of the void scent's blood once and for all. With that done, you all leave the tainted city behind. Although you saved Arya and she's eager to get back to her training, separating her from Lilith removed almost all of her arcane power. This change doesn't discourage the girl. In fact, she's excited because now all the progress that she makes with red magic will be thanks to her skill and not her unique heritage. Since she hasn't given up, Ixrun tells her to study thaumaturgy and conjury, and once she has the fundamentals down, he will start teaching her again. With the skill you showed fighting Lilith, Ixrun doesn't have anything else to teach you for now either. So for the time being, he must say goodbye and continue on his pilgrimage until the day that you all meet again. A day that he believes will be a lot sooner than you think. This concludes the Stormblood portion of the Red Mage Storyline. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video.